What is up, you guys? I hope you're doing well. We're here for our weekly anchor message where we are getting our sort of soul assignments for the week, our spiritual lessons. So from the wild unknown archetypes, we've got the orphan, which if memory serves me correctly, we had the orphan last week, so this is continuing on. Followed by the animal, followed by the desert. Underneath orphan, we've got the sun card. Underneath animal, we have 10 of cups. And underneath the desert, we have 10 of swords. So I'm going to pause and let you guys listen to the audio and look at the spread, and then we'll come back and unpack each card. All right. It is during this time of year we inject so much light and joy and giving and appreciation and sacredness, because this is also the time of year where it is the coldest, darkest, most vulnerable time for humans and animals alike. This time of year we feel a level of helplessness and exposure to the harsh realities of this realm, and we reach out in hope of divine comfort and redemption, salvation from our struggle. We feel our primal needs and fears triggered by the trials of uncertainty and instability. We are parched. During this time, our willingness to heal, transform, forgive, choose new light and radiance, connect us with the light of our Creator to channel miracles. Our renewed determination to reparent our inner child within frees us from running on loops of old programming and unconscious thinking, behaviors and defense mechanisms that keep us stuck. This is a new day, a new chapter. The animal within has been brought to rest. Our conscious mind and soul have mastered this inner beast, and by breaking the carnal will, we may be able to achieve true fulfillment. The journey through this desert is coming to its completion. Glorious new chapters are waiting to be written. All right, so one of the gifts of the winter holidays, which for me it is like this expansive blanket of the weeks, I guess, beginning in, I don't know, maybe the days even leading up to the solstice. It includes the solstice, whenever Hanukkah falls, Christmas, the Feast of Christmas. All of them sort of have like this significance of sacredness, and the focus of each of these themes, whether we're coming at it from a sense of like from a Hebraic lens, looking at the Hanukkah opportunities, or more like a Kabbalistic lens, or the lens of Christ consciousness, of the birth of Christ consciousness coming in through dark times, or we're looking at the return of this natural vitality that comes back after the solstice, the winter solstice each year, which is reflected in the fact that the days are starting to grow longer after that. The solstice is the darkest night, and then after that period of a couple of days, the sun starts to grow. The days start to get longer again, things are brighter, and you kind of have this new sort of like renewal and rebirth. So this time of year is all about going into this dark time and embracing that unknown and kind of letting it do its work on us. And the gift in this time of year is if we're kind of willing to do that, if we're willing to look in honest reflection and be willing to maybe take responsibility for what we need to take responsibility for, and let ourselves off the hook for things that, we shouldn't, put ourselves on the hook for. And extend mercy and compassion to others, and extend ourselves in sharing, and attempting to cultivate unity and the highest good of all, rather than, you know, separation. So wherever we're willing to do that mending and that repairing and that healing, the effort that we make is really rewarded by the support of the divine and the creator. And one of the themes of the lessons this time of year has been that Jacob the patriarch was blessed, right? But when he lost his son Joseph, he thought Joseph was dead. For years he was mourning and grieving, and he was cut off from his blessings. He was kind of like feeling like he was almost even cursed. Because the thing is, from a spiritually technological perspective, the spirit of God, the Shekhinah, the feminine aspect of God that provides us with like nurturing and goodness and wholeness and fulfillment, vibrationally can't be near someone who's in a state of brokenness or like fragmentedness or separation or lack or depression or darkness. There's no vibrational affinity. There's no resonance there. It's a dissonant energy. So in order for Jacob to reunite and have this like kind of renewal of a second life, it wasn't until after he was reunited with his son Joseph. And this all took place over the course of many years when Joseph's brothers, Joseph had a dream, and he told his brothers that he predicted that one day he would actually be above them, and he told them some other things that really got them disturbed, and they felt threatened, and so they were going to kill Joseph, and so instead they sold him into slavery. And he ended up being in slavery in Egypt, and he was in this time of uncertainty, right? But while he was there, he gave his all, and he was well liked and found to be kind of like really vital and important, and started rising up in the ranks, and eventually became a king of Egypt and the keeper of the storehouse of all the goods. So many years later, after he'd become king, his brothers needed help, and they came to him not knowing that was their brother. They just thought he'd probably died or whatever in captivity. And he recognized them right away. And Joseph right then had a choice. He could either forgive them and choose reunification, or he could turn them away. And so he chose forgiveness. And by doing that, he reunified his entire family and completely like turned Jacob's fortune around, and he had a rebirth, and he was like, it's like everything he had was restored to him, even more so. And so then not only that, but not only Jacob and Joseph's relationship and their whole household and family were restored, but all the tribes of Israel were in unity and in peace and harmony and prosperity for a period of time because of that. So this time of year, we have an opportunity to bring wholeness to what was fragmented and return to that wholeness, and then return our connection and affinity with that spirit of the Creator that keeps us in flow with our blessings and with our higher destiny, right? So there's things that cause us hiccups, right? So what is Egypt when we hear about the talking about Egypt? It's our egoic mind, our carnal nature, our fear, our greed, our lusts, our dark side, right? And it's the opponent, right, that uses that side of us. And the opponent is Egypt, right? But the opponent uses that side of our mind against us. So think about the Pharaoh is Egypt, or the Pharaoh is the opponent, and like maybe Egypt is like the ego, right? And we have to leave the binds of Egypt, right? So we're leaving slavery. That means that we are awakening and transcending that reactive nature that goes easily with the ego, and we become emancipated from that, and we rise above that nature. And then we finally, for the first time, if we practice and master that, are able to pause and choose with free will and sovereignty our life and our choices and our responses, rather than being in an effect state of reactivity, and usually, until we become self-aware, playing out unconscious patterns and unconscious beliefs. And we have these booby traps set within our personality that are unbeknownst to us. And when we start getting closer to our success or our fuller potential, like those booby traps go off and we self-sabotage, and these like unconscious defense mechanisms kick in, and it's like, wait, if you get this thing, then you're not going to be safe. This is unknown. You know, we're used to this, you know. And so the ego, the wounded inner child, right? It kind of tries to protect us, but these stories and these programs were written at a very early age. And this happens for all of us. This is where like our operating, our programming, you know, gets laid in our subconscious. So it's up to us to dismantle these things over a lifetime, right? And over a period. And sometimes we can make, you know, great strides in that very quickly. And sometimes certain other aspects take longer to realize about ourselves. It's all part of the journey. But this week, I think the aspects of ourself in the form of the archetypal orphan are coming up. And so maybe there were aspects of us that were maybe not nurtured by our parents. And it is up to us to discover those things about ourselves and take ownership of them and like reparent ourselves. Or discover the way our inner child might be acting out because of unrealized pain or lack of structure, and maybe acting out in such a way that is setting us back. And we need to recognize that and act out as the parent for that inner child within, and set boundaries and structure so that inner child feels safe and secure and stable. And it adds to that, you know, like when you have a dysregulated nervous system and you start learning about nervous system and how yours reacts to things, and you start to recognize, oh, I have erratic behavior when my nervous system is dysregulated. I have a hard time concentrating. I get flustered. I get short. I get clumsy and mistake prone. You know what I mean? So like you recognize things about yourself. I recognize that when my nervous system has been dysregulated, like it was dysregulated for most of my life. And so, it was like I was more easily provoked into like more heightened states of emotion than other people, because I was already operating at a level of like feeling like I was unconsciously like in survival mode, right? So when you start to look back on things that you did and behaviors you had, you start to realize, oh, okay, if the more and more I've regulated my nervous system, that's one layer of working on your heart, mind, soul, strength, all of those things. It adds to your calmness and your ability to process life and what's happening and not become as reactive. You can slow down and think about things more clearly, or think about what you're about to say or not say something that would have just come out before. So I think that, you know, part of that dysregulation, or something that's similar to that dysregulation, is when you have like an orphaned inner child that has been neglected, it's not been nurtured, it's not been given structure, right? See, what happens in real life, right, not archetypally speaking, but in literal terms, is when kids are in the foster system because they're orphaned or because they have to be taken away from like abusive, dysfunctional households, they go through the system, and the system is terrible. It's like a prison in and of itself. I mean, they're treated horribly, and then sometimes they luck out and get with nice, benign foster parents, but sometimes they get with, you know, not good foster parents. So, but besides the point, what happens is when they turn 18, they're no longer wards of the state, and they're just thrown out into the world, into society, and they don't know how to take care of themselves. They don't know how to navigate the world. They don't know basic things. They don't know how to set up their bank and keep up with a bank account, keep up their money, and, you know, keep a job. And they haven't been mentored. They haven't been told the basic things. They've just been in and out of a system. You know, maybe they've been in some good households where people took the time or were conscious enough to like tell them about these things, but we take for granted just learning how to function in basic ways just from being in a house consistently, right? And observing adults taking care of business. But these people maybe haven't. So they get thrown out into the real world, and a lot of them end up homeless because they don't know how to give themselves discipline or structure, or they don't know where to focus their efforts or their actions to take. So things fall apart quickly, and then they're like out in the street and exposed, and then it's harder to get a job because you don't have an address. It's harder to get anything, right? So you can see how it could downward spiral quickly. Well, apply that to our inner child, right? If we don't tend to the orphaned part of our inner child, that inner child doesn't know how to navigate life the way that our adult mind does. And so there's a disconnect, right, in our personalities. And so we need to catch our orphaned child up. We need to reparent that part of ourselves, and for using myself as an example, that would look like making sure that I have the consistent discipline of remembering, hey, I've got everything done for the day now. I've filmed before work. Now I need to get in the habit of when I get sleepy times after I have din-dins, I need to go to bed and not do the couch nap, not set my alarm, and go to bed as early as possible and get up as early as possible, right? It might start as just basic things, right? I know for myself over the years, sometimes even just learning to set basic goals for myself helped me feel more secure and stable. Like making sure you pay your bills on time. I know a lot of people have the money to pay their bills, but they don't pay them on time because they're just not organized, right? So just little things like that, like tending to your household, getting things in order, getting up earlier, staying on top of things, doing healthy routines. When you look at your dreams and you look at your future, are you taking your life into account seriously? Are you doing enough for yourself to balance your budget and grow your money and set yourself up, with security for the long term? I mean, there's only so much we can do, but we need to do what we can. And are you working towards where you want to be? That takes effort, that takes discipline, that takes focus. And sometimes we have to say no to other things, right? So we say yes to good habits, no to bad habits, and we plan our splurges and things like that. We give ourselves time to rest and to play, but we don't, we have boundaries and structures and kind of routines around it, right? So we're reparenting the inner child, and then that brings new light, new vitality. There's something interesting about this year. Aries, the child of the zodiac, the baby of the zodiac, is kind of in the spotlight. And guess who else is in the spotlight? the disciplinarian of the zodiac, Saturn. And guess who's working together a lot this year? Aries and Saturn. Saturn has been up my ass in my natal chart for my entire life. So y'all, I know the stern, shrewdness of Saturn, believe me. But when you make friends with Saturn and you do things Saturn's way, things can go really well, and you can have a very nice relationship with Saturn and with discipline. So when you make peace with having discipline and you make that part of something that you like in your life, then you will be fruitful and things will go well. There's a lot of Aries energy, cardinal energy, 0 degrees at Aries, new big cycle starting in Aries, conjunctions happening at 0 degrees in Aries, planets, facing off and conjuncting and all these things in Aries, and then Saturn's moving into Aries. And I talk about all this in the 2026 prediction series, and I stayed home from work tonight so that I could type up the description boxes. So I'll be doing hard work and eating little snacks and watching Harry Potter in the background tonight. But that'll be out soon, guys, soon. So I'm working hard, and I'm excited to give that to you. So anyway, the discipline that we put forth is going to bring forth new levels. It's going to unlock new levels in our life about bringing forth our greatest light, our greater levels of potential, revealing long-term fulfillment and legacy, and really aligning with our dreams and our true authenticity and purpose. But it's not going to come without our efforts and our discipline. So if we show that orphan that we love that orphan and we care for that orphan, and show that healthy love, healthy discipline, we're going to reveal greater light. We're going to reveal greater blessings, greater joy, greater abundance. Right now, it does feel like during this time of year, the inner animal feels like it's sort of backed into a corner, right? I know for myself, I'm in the service industry. The flow of money it fluctuates through the year. And so whereas the holiday season can be really great and really busy and really profitable, it was kind of skim this year, and we're moving into slow season. So I've also been challenged and called to be really diligent about tithing this year and sharing that money with people that are in desperate need of it. And so if you show up to tithe at least the 10%, it's like you notice that difference. I mean, everything's taken care of, and I haven't been in lack for anything this year, but it does challenge you out of your comfort zone, right? And in this time of year, collectively, the human psyche experiences the threat of going into the cold. We're far away from the harvest now, and we're also very far away from the next harvest. So the human body, the biology, the psychology, we're all conditioned to understand this time of year as growing in uncertainty and feeling exposed and feeling vulnerable. And some people in the world right now are very exposed and very vulnerable, quite literally, right? So it's happening instinctually, it's happening literally on various scales and spectrums for individuals. So there is this instinct to want to have this self-preservation or be snippy or feel desperation or fear or wariness, or even to go overboard this time of year with our lusts and our indulgences and our decadences, right? But we need to bring that into balance as well. And it's like when we can on a spiritual level finally overcome and transcend that carnal mind. The carnal mind is what keeps us enslaved to our material, like our suffering, because really our suffering has to do with not being satisfied with our material conditions. And so if we can rise above the need for the material conditions to be a certain way, then we can tame that beast within that has out of control desires or out of control lusts and honestly doesn't think about the consequences. It just needs and it wants. Right? And it feels instinctually either to satiate a need or want, or feel protective and feel like, the animal is in survival. So it's kind of extreme black and white responses to life, where when we can learn to master that, like as we learn self-mastery and as we transcend in our consciousness, what makes us more conscious and more self-mastered and more like the Creator, more like the Christ, is our ability to break the spirit of if you've ever had any contact with someone who raises horses or is a horse whisperer, sometimes with certain really stubborn horses, they have to break that horse's spirit in order to be able to ride it, right? Because the horse will throw you off. It doesn't want to take the bridle, it's resistant. But once you break that horse's spirit, then you can have a bond with the horse and you can ride it, and the horse can then serve a higher function than just aimlessness, right? So too is our egos, our carnal mind. We have to break that will. We have to break that spirit so that nothing can own us, nothing can control us, because we're transcendent above those cravings, those desires, those temptations, those triggers, right? It's like they don't really affect us anymore. So we're completely separate. So then we become sovereign and we're making our own choices. We're not being responding on our base instincts. We're transcended beyond that. And so in order to really connect with true and lasting fulfillment, that's how we connect with that. Because what happens is that sometimes we get the fulfillment, but the carnal mind sets a trap that we fall into, and then we ruin everything and we lose it all because we didn't have the discipline, we didn't have the control, we didn't have the ability to think in the big picture, right? And have the big vision. So, or have foresight, or see the creator working in the situation. Then we make a panic choice and we lose out on something, right? So, like for instance, I have a bottle of 160th year anniversary Jack Daniels, they did like a special like anniversary batch this one year, and I got a bottle of it because I worked on a production with Jack Daniels Distillery. And there have been many times in my life where I've been super broke, and I was tempted to try to sell that bottle to make ends meet, but something told me that that bottle is going to be worth something one day. And it occurred to me today that that might actually happen because the liquor industry is actually reporting losses like the last few years for the first time in history since the liquor industry has been commercialized. And this is due to the fact that like people just aren't drinking as much anymore. They're especially like newer generations, they're not big drinkers. And so it's crazy, but these companies that have been household names are starting to cut back production and all this. So I'm like, oh, okay. So instead of having that animal instinct of fear, lack, desperation, oh no, I'm going to get rid of this valuable thing, squander my treasures away and panic, and then lose that long-term fulfillment for the sake of instant gratification. Instead, oh, I have risen above that carnal fear. And I know that manna comes every morning when I need it. And I'm going to be fine. I'm going to look past the illusion of fear, and I'm going to focus on the horizon where the rainbow is, right? And so we are going into like new chapters, but we are going to get there as we stop planting seeds through the consciousness of effect consciousness, right? And we start planting seeds through cause consciousness. We're not coming from that animal mind anymore. We're coming from our higher mind, from our super consciousness, and we can be led by that spirit within. And the Holy Spirit draws close to us. The more joyous we are, the more at peace we are, the more whole and integrated and unified everything is within, then that just draws more and more of that blessing on us because it strengthens our connection to the Creator. It puts us in the shade of the wings of the Creator, so to speak. So this is the key to true and lasting fulfillment. The Ten of Cups here is overcoming that carnal nature. And then here we have the desert. And the desert represents just this, I know we see like desert, we think hot, dry, barren, but that can be, a tundra as well. The cold barrenness, the death, the brittle bare bones of winter, right? Feeling like there's not a lot of resources, feeling like there's not a lot of relief, or there's not an oasis in sight, right? And so I think that, yes, we are faced with this last moment of a reminder of what it's like to be in this desert, right? And think about when Jesus went to the desert for 40 days after, or the wilderness, so to speak, for 40 days after he was baptized by John the Baptist. That was when like the anointing was like activated and he was initiated. And part of his initiation was that he went out on his own into the wilderness for 40 days and he fasted. And that was when he was sort of like connecting like Moses did on Mount Sinai, and connecting with God directly in the wilderness. But what also happened while Jesus was in the wilderness and while he was fasting and while he was in a hungry place was that he was visited by the serpent, the snake, the opponent. And he was tempted 3 times, hey, why not end this fast? I know you're hungry. Like, you could just make food appear, right? Why don't you you can make anything happen, right? And so the opponent kept meeting him in the wilderness and trying to satiate his appetite with instant gratification. But Jesus resisted the opponent and said, I'm a soul. I don't need you. I don't need this instant gratification these crumbs you're offering. What I'm doing is bigger than this. It's bigger than just wanting to reach for instant gratification. I'm in an initiation. I'm activating my soul and my spirit and my purpose. So you don't have anything to give me here, right? So when we're in this desert, right, when we're in these dark times, when we're in the times of uncertainty, this is when the opponent comes and whispers these things in our ear to try to drive us into desperate action, or to selling ourselves short, or to falling into despair and inaction, right? Maybe, we want to hold out for our, a true partner, but we settle for someone because we are just in a hurry, right? So whatever desert you find yourself in, be advised that we are about at the end of it. This looks like a threatening card, but it's good news. This is the Ten of Swords. This is the end of a difficult situation and the beginning of change and new vibrations coming in. So don't get desperate when you're feeling like, oh my God, I can't take one more step through this desert, because really you're really close to the finish line here. You reach out, you can almost touch things coming into fruition. So don't give up on yourself now. Don't lose hope. This is really the end of a difficult situation and a difficult cycle and a difficult period. So the key now is to know that this is the completion of the time in the desert, right? And that things are going to change, or that they have potential to change very shortly. It's just that we have to show up for that, and we have to be that change, and we have to utilize the discipline and the structure and the intention and the focus in order to do that. But if we make that effort, then I believe that our investment will be matched. All right, you guys, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly manifestation oracle message. And I will let you guys know exactly everything that's going on with the 2026 prediction series. And I will let you know as soon as it's available. It's really, really something. I mean, this is basically like our soul's workbook for the year. And I think that it is a guide into revealing our soul's greatest light. There's such a rhythm to this year to come. And there's some very key specific themes of challenges and things that we're going to heal, and things that we have the opportunity to navigate with care, and move beyond and bring it back into wholeness, and lots of opportunities for our dreams, but they're interwoven with that spiritual growth as well. So we'll see, but I definitely am going to be using that as an ongoing tool through the year. And that's kind of what it's good for. It's not just like a whole beginning of the year hype thing for fun. It's a tool that you can use to navigate your entire year. There's a yearly overview, which is an in-depth channeling and Celtic cross reading of the year to come at an overview. And then we have readings for each quarter. So those are seasonal readings. And then we have monthly readings, and underneath each description box of each video, there are journal questions that go with each month, each season, and the yearly overview that will help you process and work through and integrate and embody the material and the change and the healing and the transformation. All right, y'all, that is all for tonight. I'll see you later. Peace.